thoughts on the Packers? I think that their win total is too low. I like the over the 9.5 at plus 100. They were 11-6. Like I was saying, I don't think much has changed to this team. I think that they win 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, 13 games. Fine. I'm not going to be like super shocked. They have a tough schedule, as does everyone in the NFC North and NFC East because we play each other.
Yeah, I took their over on their wins, and I don't think that's being a biased fan. 9.5. They've won that with Jordan Love already. And I think last year that was with Jordan Love hurt. That was with a first-year system with the defense missing a lot of key players down the stretch due to injury. So like you said, they haven't made a ton of changes in terms of veteran players. But I do think between their draft and just another year under Jeff Hafley in the defense and Jordan Love being healthy, I feel really good about them at over 9.5.
Okay, so I play a lot of fantasy football. What the fuck is going on with their wide receiver room? And what can you tell people about what direction they should go? Or is this more of like you can start them in a flex and then don't get upset if you didn't pick the right receiver? Or how do we play this game with the Packers receivers?
Yeah, it's tough. Anytime you have this kind of a receiver group and there's no clear one, at least on the depth chart, it's tough to know where to go. I usually go with the strategy of just take the last one because I don't think you're going to really be able to know who to start on a weekly basis. So like right now in a ton of drafts, I've just taken Dontavian Wicks with one of my last picks. Yeah. And I think he has just as much of a chance as Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed to be a flex player for your fantasy lineup. Obviously, the hope is Matthew Golden becomes that guy, the first round pick. I think he might need a year to really turn into that number one. But if I were to rank them, at least for fantasy football, I'd probably go with Golden first just because of the upside. And then I would go Reed, Dobbs, Wicks is probably how I would do it.
I love Wicks. I love betting on him long as reception. Not that towards the end of the season it wasn't as fun as it was at the beginning of the season, but it was fun for a little bit there. What about the tight end room, like fantasy wise? Is there one over the other?
Yeah, I think Tucker Kraft is one of the best values in fantasy at tight end. He's going, I think, outside the top 10 or near number 10. And he's someone who last year, over 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, and I think he's only going to get better. Last year was his first year really being featured as the starting tight end. So if you want to, with tight end, it's one of those positions where basically either take Brock Bowers or Trey McBride in the first couple rounds, or I'm waiting as long as I can on tight end. And I think you get Tucker Kraft past the 10th round in most drafts. And I would rather take him in the 11th or 12th round than, TJ Hawkinson or Sam Laporta, like in the 7th or 8th. Like, I would just rather have that value. I think they're going to finish close enough.
I do think Hawkinson's going to slip a little bit in drafts, to be honest. And I think he's going to maybe have some value by the time that redraft comes around just because of last season. People seem a little bit down on him. Where are you at with the NFC North as a whole? I'll just let you have at it before I put my input in a little bit.
I mean, I think it's safe to say it's the best division in football. It is very tough to really predict and figure out how everything's going to go because you can make the argument that the Vikings, right, obviously new quarterback, we don't know how that's going to go. They might take a step back. The Lions losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, maybe they take a little step back. The Bears, of course, getting Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams year 2, maybe he's a little better. So I think all of these teams are probably going to be at least 7 or 8 win teams, if not more. I wouldn't be surprised if 3 NFC North teams made the playoffs for the second straight year. So it's going to be really exciting. I think if I had to just take I don't know if it's a bold prediction, but I do think the Vikings take a bit of a step back. And I think, at least for the division title, it's going to come down to the Lions and Packers. I think the Bears could easily be a wild card team, though.
Let me hear one of your first futures that you were high on.
All right, so I think we'll start with some of the more tame, normal ones, and then we'll get a little strange. But I think Baker Mayfield at plus 135 for 4,000 pass yards is a really solid bet. The Bucs, one of the best passing, one of the best offenses in general in football. Baker, both years in Tampa, has had over 4,000 yards. They've, if anything, gotten only better drafting Emeka Egbuka in the first round. Bucky Irving obviously stepping up. Mike Evans, I mean, that's 1,000 yards right there. So Baker just needs 3,000 yards from the rest of his receivers to get this. And between Chris Godwin coming back, Emeka Ibuka, Jalen McMillan, I think he will pass this number pretty easily. Obviously, it's assuming he stays healthy, but that hasn't been an issue for Baker in his career. So Baker plus 135 for 4,000 yards seems like an almost lock for me.
Yeah, I like that number quite a bit. Staying with that trend of kind of these, not as crazy ones. Courtland Sutton's receiving yards line is 875 and a half. To go over that is minus 110. Last season, he had 81 receptions, and he was shy of 1,100 yards by like 19 yards. I'm not even really asking him to do much more here. And I think if anything, they'll take a little bit of a bump there in that second year. So I like him to go over that 875 and a half. They didn't add enough that makes me worried that he's going to have some volume taken away from him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still clearly the number one guy, I think, in Denver. Bo Nix had an impressive rookie season already. You expect him to take a step forward in year 2. So, yeah, I mean, Courtland Sutton, anything under 1,000, I think, is a pretty solid bet.
Absolutely. What's the other one you're looking at?
So another one that I think it's maybe a little spicy, but I just can't believe Ashton Jeanty is plus 270 for 10 rushing touchdowns. I know 10 rushing touchdowns, it's not, you don't do it so easily, but rookie running backs, when they're that level of good, usually they come in and as a rookie they're immediately good. Like running back is not a position that takes years to kind of get into the NFL. Like with Saquon, right? Obviously he showed up and he was incredible from day one. I think Jeanty has that potential to do that. And the Raiders, I think Pete Carroll wants to run the ball, especially near the goal line. Jeanty has a big body to get in there. Mm-hmm. I think he can easily hit 10 plus touchdowns by like week 12 or 13.
Yeah, I'm with you. I already bet his, and this is one of those lines, kind of like we were talking about when this show started, that has already moved. This was 1,500 his rushing yards. I've already bet that over. It's up to 1,075 and a half. I probably would still take that. I'd probably stop at once it hits that 1,100 mark. If you're going to do that, I'd rather just take an alt on that line. But I'm totally with you on Jeanty. I think that just like you said, it's not going to take. He's going to come in and be the focal point of this Raiders offense. Obviously Brock Bowers will get his as well. Let me ask you about your old quarterback, because I have seen a lot of people smashing the over on his passing yards. I want to be on the other end of that. I think it is set at 3,300 and a half at minus 114. I know all the numbers. I know he's had 16 seasons over 38. Like I got it. I get why historically you would want to do this. I worry about durability. I worry about Aaron Rodgers, where he is just from a wanting to play standpoint. I'm not saying he doesn't want to play. He also could be fantastic and they could go over their number. I also worry about maybe who the wide receiver 2 even is there. So I think there's a lot of questions about the Steelers. I've always been high on the Steelers. Wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers go to the playoffs, as they do like every single year. But I don't know. I think could they also pound the rock too? And could he stay under this? Could he miss, 3 games and stay under this number? Probably.
It's definitely possible. I mean, Rodgers, the one thing that's hard about betting his unders is that usually he kind of takes over the offense and wants to throw as much as he can. But I think that especially is true near the end zone. So I don't mind taking the under on his yards, but I think his touchdowns at 23 and a half, that I would take the over on, because he doesn't need to have a ton of yards. I think when they get near the end zone, he's going to want to throw the ball. I mean, last year, he basically vultured all of Breece Hall's touchdowns. I've seen it in Green Bay, over the years. He's also, happens to be one of the better, all time inside the red zone passers. And I think that's just an area of the field he really likes to throw the ball. So I have a couple that I like of DK Metcalf because of this. I mean, Rodgers historically just targets his number one receiver over and over and over and over. He just doesn't care. So DK, his receiving yards at 1,000 is plus 105. I definitely think he can do that. He's going to get probably 160 to 180 targets. Mm-hmm. And I think he could definitely get that done. I would take him at his touchdown number. I just think in general, as long as they're both healthy, DK is going to see 10 to 12 targets a week.
Yeah. I think my problem is I've never been I'm not like a DK girly. The pacifier thing drives me crazy and I can't take it. Like
Yeah.
it's just too much. It's too much for me. I don't know.
I hear that.
Can't
It is
do
a
it.
lot.
And it's not anything. Like I've been off of him for a little bit here. Staying in that division, I think there's still value on, and like it's minus 130, but I think there's still value on the Ravens to win this division. I know the Bengals is a very popular, bet to get behind. It's just you're going to hear it a million times, and I don't think it's going to be something that they surprise us. They don't have the defense. It's not like no one is being dramatic. They're just straight up don't have the defense. I don't think to be able to compete to win in this division, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Ravens. There's just unless really not even Joe Burrow, the Bengals defense can become a complete 180 of what it was last year. It's hard to bet against the Ravens. And then even I would say the Ravens, they're minus 110, but the Ravens basically win 12 games every single year under John Harbaugh. It's almost automatic. So over 11 and a half wins minus 110. I still think, like you said, there's good value in that. Like there are very few teams in the NFL that I feel more comfortable betting on than the Ravens. Like Lamar can even miss a game or two, and I still think they could win those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you are a person that is betting like Bengals to win the AFC North, then I hope you also have a ticket on Joe Burrow to win MVP too, because I think that's going to go hand in hand. That's at plus 650. I do think there's value there. They could easily do what they did last year where Lamar already won, and then they give it to Josh, even though Lamar probably should have, you know what I mean? So it could be a scenario where we're looking at something very similar to that, and then they give it to Burrow, because if the Bengals weren't as bad as they were, maybe we're looking at it. We're having a different conversation there with MVP as well. What else are you looking at here?
So switching over to maybe, some once we're getting into the awards, I think that's really where like I focus on the most because it's so open-ended, and there's so like Bijan Robinson, Offensive Player of the Year, is plus 2,000. To me, that's insane. Like Bijan Robinson has as good of a chance as anyone in the NFL to lead the league in total yards, touchdowns, all these things. He should not be plus 2,000. So I've already smashed that. I would do it again. Like I just think there are a lot of value in these awards. But the first one I would start with is Bijan.
Yeah, I think what have I even bet in those markets? I don't think I have placed that many awards. What's another award that you have looked at, I guess?
Well, sticking, once we're, obviously you are a Giants fan, and I got Malik Nabers at Offensive Player of the Year at plus 5,000. Now it's already down to plus 3,500. Is it likely? Well, of course not, because that's what the odds are, but he's one of the most talented receivers in football. Russell Wilson, assuming he starts most of the season, and maybe if it's Jameis, it might even be better for Nabers, considering what Jameis does for wide receivers. I just think Nabers is going to be a target hog, and he's just so damn good that, I mean, at plus 3,500, I'll take a shot. I'm definitely not too concerned about it.
Yeah, I get that like players are getting, and I was talking about this because I'm in a dynasty startup draft right now, and I get that the Giants get the knock, and like that's fine. I understand why, but they have the best like QB situation that they've had in so long, and then they also have this talent in Malik Nabers, and it's not like he's just a different specimen. I bet him actually today to have 10 plus receiving touchdowns at plus 225. And I already have his over 7.5 receiving touchdowns at minus 110. He started 13 games last year and had 1,200 plus yards and 7 touchdowns with absolute bozos. Like, and I'm not even that big of a Russell Wilson. Like, I'm not excited to watch Russell Wilson, but I'm excited to watch Nabers, reap the benefit of that. And then if he goes down, you get Jameis. And even if you only get a couple games of Dart, I'm okay with that. Like, I think that Dart can still be functional enough that if it's only 2 games of it, whatever. But I think Malik Nabers' numbers are very interesting. I've already bet him to lead the league in receiving yards. He was only shy of it, of like really not that much last year as well. So I am in on a lot of Malik Nabers' numbers. I was looking at Tyrone Tracy's rushing. I'm not quite there, but as far as Nabers goes, I like it.
Yeah, there's another one that I think really stood out to me, comeback player of the year, Trevor Lawrence at plus 450. Okay. Now, I've been a big Trevor Lawrence hater for most of his career,
Mhm.
but number one, I don't see any clear like leading candidate for that award right now. And when you have Brian Thomas and you have Travis Hunter and you have the
Mhm.
running back, I just think there's at least a pretty good chance that a quarterback coming back from a major injury with two star wide receivers, he can put up 4,000 yards. He could put up 25 to 30 touchdowns. And if he
Mhm.
gets the Jaguars to the playoffs, I think he could easily win that award. And plus 450, I thought was pretty solid odds.
I do like that number as well. That kind of brings it back to another feature. I haven't bet anything yet, but I was just looking at these today. So the AFC South, I think that there's probably value on another team other than the Texans to win that division. And if we believe that the Jags are going to find success, we know how this division rolls. Like they're plus 300 to win that division. And I think there's value on that right there.
Yeah, I actually had that written down.
Yeah.
I think that is a really solid one. And then going to the NFC South, another division that's just totally unpredictable and not very good. I think the Falcons at plus 230, it's interesting. If Michael Penix, the last few games of last year, if that is actually who he is, I think they could easily at least compete with the Bucs. And it's not like the Bucs are some, automatic 10 to 12 win team that's just going to dominate the division. So I think the Falcons at plus 230 are kind of interesting there for the NFC South.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even like from a fantasy perspective, from a lot of the betting markets, like Drake London, Bijan, Penix, like all three of those are very intriguing players to me as far as like betting wise, because again, like I'm watching in fantasy, Drake London is very undervalued for some reason, is not going nearly as high as he should be, which I'm fine with because he keeps falling to me in rounds that he should not be available. And I don't think we've seen the peak of what we're going to get from Bijan. So that team could be really fun. It could be a disaster. They could be one of those teams that just lose in the final 10 minutes every single week. But I also think that the upside there with that offense is very exciting. So I think both of those, and we know AFC, NFC South. We get this every single year where it's either like there's one on top that's good, and then the rest of them they kind of just beat up on each other all year.
Yeah, I mean they're the two worst divisions of football. I feel pretty confident saying that. So when you're dealing with those kind of teams, I think anything's kind of possible. And yeah, I think both the Falcons and the Jags have at least better chance than the other three teams that are trailing the current leader in that division. So I like those guys.
Absolutely. And then before I have you give me one more of them, staying kind of on one of those divisions. So I was looking today at the fewest wins market.
Okay.
And there is a number, and I know I'm going to piss people off again, and that's fine. I do think there's a world that the Titans have the fewest wins at 12-1. Their O-line is very suspect. Like their roster is low-key cheeks. Like everyone is expecting like a Jaden Daniels type of bump without like the pieces that Jaden Daniels even really had is the thing. And I don't think I compared the two of them on even the same, game-changing ability. Do I think that Cam can get there? Yeah, but also you got to give the kids some weapons. He's got Tyler Lockett, Ridley, and Van Jefferson and Chigaquan. Like what the fuck are you going to do? I get it. Like he's probably going to look great, but 12-1, I get it because you look at the teams ahead of them, and I think the Giants very much at plus 600 are very good value too. But like Jets plus 800, okay, also kind of there. Saints plus 425 and Browns plus 400. I think the Browns are going to sneak out wins. Like I'm not totally convinced that that's going to be like a complete shit show the way that a lot of people do, but I think there might be value here on the Titans at 12-1.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you said, I don't even think it's low-key cheeks. I think it's just cheeks. It's like very high-key cheeks.
Like, I just don't, I'm not saying it's nothing on Cam Ward. I just don't think that they're ready for him.
Like, if your clear head and shoulders best target is Calvin Ridley, who we all know is good for 3 huge games a year and then 12 games where he basically does nothing, like, that's not an offense. Their running game is aging Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, who's not, really doing all that much. Tyler Lockett was like their big free agent signing, and Van Jeff, like, I just don't.
Rid of Akine, who was low key, like kind of used to have.
Yeah, at least he was catching touchdowns last year. I mean, at a certain point, I don't know if you did this, but like after his third or fourth straight week of catching touchdowns, and I just had to stop doubting it and bet on him every week for anytime touchdown.
His reception was set like 16 and a half for a bunch of weeks. 17 and a half the line was, and he's getting 20, 21 every single week until they got smart. But yeah, I don't know about this Titans, like just the roster alone. I've seen this story before where a team brings in like a great quarterback with the 101, and then it just doesn't go as planned. That's the more likely outcome than what we got with Jaden Daniels last year.
For sure. Yeah. And then, like, let's be real. I think Cam Ward could have a good future in the NFL, but I wouldn't consider him as like a clearly NFL ready prospect. And it's a bad roster. The defense is really not any much better than the offense. If Cam Ward struggles coming out, they could easily be a 3 or 4 win team. Like that, we've seen plenty of
100%.
first overall quarterbacks go out there and just kind of suck year one. It doesn't mean his whole career will be bad, but they have not given him a team that they can really expect to succeed with right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you give me another future here?
So, all right, this is kind of a fun. We got to talk about the Protector of the Year, right? A new award, never been done before.
I haven't looked at the odds yet. Okay, I'm glad we're doing this. Okay.
Yeah. So I've only been able to find the odds on Bet Online. So maybe not your most popular out there, and maybe I'm being biased, but Zach Tom, Packers right tackle, has been one of the best tackles in the league since he came into the NFL. And he's plus 5,000 right now to win, which to me is just insane. Like, sure, there are some other tackles that I think are obviously higher on the list, but he's someone that, I mean, he doesn't give up sacks. He rarely gives up pressures, very few penalties. I think if he goes next year and does what he does, and one or two of those other tackles either take a step back, maybe one gets hurt, I think at plus 5,000, it's definitely worth throwing a couple bucks at.
Who else is around him there? Where did you even see those? Are they on DraftKings?
No, it's on Bet Online.
Okay.
So I saw, I mean, like obviously, Lane Johnson near the top.
It's obviously, it has to be a playoff team. Like I think that has to be one of the things. It has to be a playoff team. It has to be a quarterback that doesn't take a lot of sacks because they're going to knock them for that. But yeah, I think you're onto something. I bet that's got to be a market that we can find a lot of value. And I think you're on something there.
No, I think you got to take a tackle. So like Jordan Mailata maybe on the Eagles, or I doubt Trent Williams at this point, a bit old, Christian Darrisaw, whatever. There is a lot of value in that award. And I also think that betting sites, because it's a new award, they're not going to have like those lines that are so sharp like all the other ones where it's going to kind of be the first year. It's going to kind of be up in the air. And I think you could take advantage of that.
Do you have another one that's written down?
Yeah, I've got a couple more. I think even looking at Ashton Jeanty, I know we talked about him already, but it's maybe a bit rare for a rookie running back to win Offensive Player of the Year. But at plus 6,000 on DraftKings, I'll take that bet. I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't. I think he can have 1,500 yards and 15 total touchdowns. So at plus 6,000, I'll take a little shot on that. And then jumping to Defensive Rookie of the Year, Will Johnson just fell all the way down the draft into the second round. And now he's at plus 3,300 for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And looking at the top like pass rushers, other than your guy, Abdul Carter, I don't think there's any pass rusher that got drafted that I think is like a lock for 8+ sacks in a really good position to get a ton of snaps. So I think a cornerback could easily end up winning it. And Will Johnson at plus 3,300 is a fun bet for me.
Yeah, and Abdul also like, and not to brag, but it's kind of a crowded room. Like we have a very stacked little defense going on there. So I could see Abdul maybe not he will feast, but maybe not feast as much just because he has the luxury of splitting some of the work with some other guys on that team. Yeah,
that Giants front four could easily be the best in football, which I just hate the thought of that. Not my favorite.
I hate it too. I don't want us to be I don't want us to sneak out wins, which I think could happen. But that brings me to the NFC East does not repeat winners.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then is Commanders the bet to is that the bet to place? Or people like maybe the Cowboys just turn it around?
I'm not going to lie. I have way too many Cowboy bets on my list right now, including Dak Prescott, because you're right. I mean, they're generally a good team. Like when Dak is not hurt, they usually end up winning 10 plus games. Dak usually puts up huge numbers. CeeDee Lamb obviously puts up huge numbers. So I do think it's worth, what are they at, like plus 400 or 500 over there for
Yeah,
the
something
division?
along that
Yeah.
realm.
Yeah, so those are pretty solid odds. But then I brought up Trevor Lawrence for comeback player of the year, but Dak at plus 300.
I
I
like that
think,
number, I think.
yeah, I just think he could easily, if he stays healthy, I would expect him to throw for 4,200 plus yards, 30 plus touchdowns, and I think that would kind of be a shoe in to win that award. And then CeeDee Lamb, I would just take most of his lines. I just think he's so good. He gets all the targets. George Pickens, I'm not overly concerned about George Pickens being there. So I do think the Cowboys, there's going to be a lot of value in Cowboys players because the lines are way down on all of them.
Yeah, I see Trevor saying, but who's running the ball for them? There's two things that bother me about the Cowboys three, because one, they're the Cowboys. Two, historically, the one thing that when they have been good is they have a good run game. I don't know that they're going to have a good run game again. That makes me a little bit nervous, and their O-line makes me a little bit nervous. But I do think we're a little bit too low on. I am not even going to say it. It like feels gross to say. It feels icky, but I think I haven't looked too much into them, and maybe we'll do it later on closer to the season. But I think there's probably value in some exacta finishing order for the NFC East because of the way that division rolls. Staying in that division, like Saquon, my dear Saquon, I love you, Saquon. This is not. But like under his rushing yards still is a little bit tempting here. Terrell pointed this out to me. Terrell is part of the SGPN network as well. So in 2018, he had 352 touches. The next year, he had a grade 3 ankle sprain week 3. 2022, 352 touches. Again, next year, grade 2 ankle sprain week 2. This year, he had 378. So I'm not saying he's going to get massively hurt. Is he going to miss a little bit of time? I think there's value just because of the usage that he had. I think taking the under 1450.5, which is a very, very high line at minus 110 is worth like, a half a unit bet.
Yeah, it's anytime. I think there's a history actually to this, like 2,000-yard rushers, players who've gotten over 400 touches, with including the playoffs, he had well over 400 touches. Yeah. They almost always have a pretty serious regression the next year, and even if they were to stay healthy. But like you said, all it would take is Saquon missing 2 or 3 games, and you're going to probably clear this line really easily. And even if he plays every game, 1450, like you said, that's an insanely high over/under. So if his efficiency just takes a little bit of a dip, I think that's a pretty solid bet.
Yeah, and I'm not doubting that the Eagles are. I wonder if someone was arguing with me on my tweet about like how they're going to bet the Eagles to win the Super Bowl every week or something. And I was like, okay, but if Saquon gets hurt and misses extended time, are you still placing that every week? Like how much of that is based off of Saquon being healthy and having a Saquon year?
I think a huge part, like a massive portion of it, because I like Jalen Hurts, but no, without Saquon, I don't think they're a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that. Let's see what else I had on here. I think I might have gotten through most of the ones I had. I don't know why I'm warming up to the Broncos, because I've been quite a Broncos hater, especially for everyone that listens to the show. I think it's whatever my issues are with Sean Payton. I'm not a Sean Payton fan at all. But there might be a little bit of value on them to win that division. I don't know that I'm putting like a half a unit on it, but it might be something I'm sprinkling. I'm still warming up to that idea. Have I done it yet? No. But I do think why I hesitate is I think Bo Nix is probably a bigger candidate for that sophomore slump than a lot of the other guys, just because of how they utilized him last year.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was not a big Bo Nix guy. Like going into the draft, I wasn't a huge believer. I think last year he kind of surprised me and probably surprised a lot of other people. So
he surprised me.
It certainly would not be out of the realm of possibility for him to just take a pretty big step back. and them just kind of not being that great. But I do think, like the Chiefs, they eventually have to not win the division. You can't just win the division.
Yeah,
I think they've won it 8 straight years. It's almost
Yeah.
becoming like aggressive. It's like you got to not win the division at least once. Like it's too much. So if someone does it, I kind of believe more though in the Broncos and the Chargers. I feel like the Chargers could have the best roster in the NFL, and they will always find a way to shit their pants. Like every other week, they'll be up by 21 going into the fourth, and they'll just lose because the Chargers are probably the most cursed team in all of football, maybe in all of sports. I've never seen a team lose games the way the Chargers lose games over the years. So I hear you on that with the Broncos. And the last one I would say that I liked a lot, where did it go? Oh, so this is kind of a fun one, but the Steelers, like you said, they always make the playoffs, and then they always lose in the wild card round. So the Steelers to lose in the wild card round is plus 310 right now.
Oh, that is good value right there.
Yeah, that's that. I saw that and I was like, smash that because.
Okay, hold on. What is the Vikings and the Cowboys? I wonder what that number is. I bet the Vikings is a nice number because for them to make the playoffs is even plus money.
Yeah, well, let's see. You've got no, you're good. The Vikings right here are to lose in the wild card round plus 370. So that's pretty solid. I can definitely see that. And what was the other team?
The Cowboys.
The Cowboys, they're going to probably even be, they're plus 420 to lose in the wild card round. That's a smash because it's like Cowboys make the playoffs, guaranteed to lose no matter who they play, and plus 420. I like those odds.
That was very interesting. I like that. I saw that market and didn't get to click into it. I have 2 more that I have before I let you get out of here. I know I took a little bit more of your time than I told you I would. 49ers over 10.5 wins. I'm going to say it again. They are absolutely cooked if they do not go over this number because that schedule is a joke. So if they do not, like 49ers, get ready for like a nice little reset because you guys are cooked. That's how I feel. I feel pretty strongly like plus 120. I think they can get it together. I think they have enough pieces to still pull out 11 wins with this schedule because it's, I don't know if you've looked at it, but it is goofy. Like they play clown after clown after clown.
Yeah, I think they got the South divisions in their lineup in their schedule, which helps a lot. And also the Niners. They got the
Giants.
Yeah, and they have the Giants, so that's an automatic W right there. But the Niners, the way it works with Kyle Shanahan is he either wins 13 games and goes to the Super Bowl, or they miss the playoffs and are total ass. So they did that last year. I think they probably will bounce back this year. And if they have a good season, I would expect 11 wins for sure.
Love it. Okay, last one is, I obviously love my longest receptions, and we can bet on the longest one of the season, 93.5 over minus 115. My first longest reception bet of 2025. Longest reception to be 93.5. I did a lot of cherry picking for this, so we're not going to go past 2022. But last season, it was 98 yards by Akine. Under in 2023, it was 92. And then in 2022, it was 98 by Gabe Davis. Whenever it doesn't hit, it's usually ending around 92. So if we could find a line, which I'll have to shop this around. I found it at the very end before I jumped on the show. But if we can find like a 91.5, I would definitely be putting some big girl money on that.
Yeah, that's like the Stephie Smalls bet. Like on every sports book. It's like the only person who's even thinking to look for this line is Steph. So the longest reception, I got to be honest, I'm sure your influence played into it. By the end of last year, it was like every guy like, oh, he's for sure going to do it. Like, why wouldn't he do it? And then all of a sudden you realize you have a parlay with like 4 guys on the same team to all hit their over. And it's like, okay, wait, you got to calm down. This is not all going to happen. But they're fun. They're just fun bets because all it takes is just one play. Sometimes, I've done some of those where in the first quarter you hit 2 or 3 and you hit a parlay, and it's just
I get pissed when they get too early. I'm like, what the fuck? I was supposed to get through at least the third, and it's like 2 minutes into the game, and you're already down a bunch of bets.
It's like I'm trying to sweat this out over here, and you already ruined it for me.
Yeah. And then I started live betting them because then you can get like 9 and you can get out of control with them. Obviously, I can't wait for NFL season. Do you have any hot takes for this season before I let you get out of here? Anything that you feel like you're going against the grain from others?
That is a good question.
Okay.
No, there are two teams that I feel like could surprise, and they're actually both in the NFC West, and it's the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I feel like they're kind of like sneaky. They're always like
I agree with the
decent.
Seahawks.
They're decent teams. The Cardinals, it's a tougher sell. I'm not gonna lie, it's a tougher sell.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a little bit of a sucker. Like I kind of always think that Kyler Murray's gonna turn it
I
around,
love
and then he
that.
never actually does.
Yeah.
So I'm giving him one more year. Marvin
Okay.
Harrison year two. Trey McBride is an absolute stud. They still have a good enough running game. I think that could surprise and do pretty. Maybe at least one of them sneaks into the playoffs.
I love it. I'm so in on that. I feel like I am like a crack addict when it comes to Kyler Murray. So I need to like stay in remission this year because I have done it way too many times. I did just take Marvin in my startup. But yeah, I need to take a little bit of a break there. I do think the Seahawks, you know, even JSN's like to lead the league in receiving yards is an interesting number. Like I'm going to play around with a lot of JSN stuff, I think, this year because Sam Darnold's like supported Addison and Justin Jefferson just fine. A lot of that probably is coaching and the team that they had, but I do think Sam Darnold can replicate at least some of that. It might not look that pretty, but yeah, Seahawks are definitely an interesting team. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you, what you're working on, how to listen to the pod?
Yeah, so first off, I just have to apologize again. Very unprofessional, and I don't know what was happening with my laptop, but I'm happy I figured it out. But yeah, as you can see under my name over there on Twitter at Book of Eli _NFL is where you'll find all of my work. But every weekend, for any Packer fans out there, co-host on the Pack a Day podcast, which I'm sure if you're watching this and you're a Packer fan, you already listened to the Pack a Day podcast. And then my writing over at PackerReport.com. But again, Steph, appreciate it. And hopefully, we can do it again before the season, revisit some of these futures.
I think that's a good idea. We will definitely do that. I will see you guys on Monday. Recap the U.S. Open. Not sure what else we have in store. Like, rate, review, subscribe, do all the things, and I'll see you guys on Monday.